And one key factor here that I cannot overstate the importance of is the element. This is something I'll touch on a little bit later in the video, but the physical benefits that one can gain from a consistent resistance training practice, to me, really are just one small part of the equation. And it's been my experience, clearly, that this number is not met by accident. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I wanted to go over the 5 biggest takeaways that I have gained from the last 8 years of lifting weights. Now, the takeaways in today's video are kind of a mix. On the one hand, we have the science-based takeaways that I've gleaned from my research and work as a personal trainer over the last 6 years. And then on the other hand, I wanted to share a little bit more of the personal side of things, some more anecdotal evidence that I've had that I didn't expect or anticipate would happen from something as simple as lifting weights. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video and that maybe you can take away something that will benefit your life as well. Let's get into it. Let's start things off on the physical/scientific front, shall we? Takeaway number 1 is that building muscle is one of the best things that you can do for your body. This is something that I touched on a bit in my 5 bad habits video, but essentially your metabolic equation is made up of a few different factors, and the more lean body mass that you have, more muscle that you have, the higher your metabolism is going to be. Your lean body mass makes up a large percentage of your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, or the amount of calories and energy that you burn at rest without doing anything. And your basal metabolic rate makes up about 70% of the metabolic equation. So by increasing your lean body mass, you're also increasing the amount of calories that you need to consume just to maintain your current energy balance. So some of the positive downstream effects of increasing your lean body mass proportion include things like faster metabolism. As we said, we're increasing the biggest chunk of your metabolic equation, lean physique, and increased caloric intake because you need to fuel the metabolically active tissue of muscle. If you're looking to increase your lean body mass because you've been so convinced by all the benefits I just laid out, then you need to incorporate some kind of resistance training into your weekly workout routine. Now, you can do this using weights or resistance bands or suspension trainers. It doesn't really matter how you choose to incorporate it, just as long as you have some form of resistance that you can increase progressively over time. That could mean increasing the resistance or increasing the volume of work, the reps or sets, or decreasing the amount of rest time. There are many ways to make the work more difficult, but you need to be tracking your progress over time so that you can continue to get stronger and challenge yourself and, keep on track with your fitness goals. The fitness goals of building lean muscle. And the great thing about all of this is that as you increase your lean body mass and put on a little bit more muscle, not only will your body take shape, you'll be able to sculpt it like the Adonis that you are, slowly chiseling away at the stone to reveal your dream physique underneath, but also the work that you do in your trainings will continue to work for you even after you finish your session. Because as we said, you're increasing your basal metabolic rate, so you're going to continue to burn calories throughout the day. This is something I'll touch on a little bit later in the video, but the physical benefits that one can gain from a consistent resistance training practice, to me, really are just one small part of the equation. That over the last 8 years of this practice, most of the changes that I've gone through have been invisible. And yes, by gaining muscle, I feel more confident and I know that my metabolism is faster and all of that is fabulous. Don't get me wrong at all. But it's also made me, a stronger person emotionally and mentally, more resilient, more disciplined, more patient, and those can't be seen. We'll wrap it up here with takeaway number 1, that let's start things off by saying that the best thing that you can do or the best gift you can give yourself this year is one of building muscle. That last point actually segues very nicely into takeaway number 2, that physical strength carries over to mental strength. But how, Ali, I hear you ask? Well, it's been my experience that when you put yourself through a grueling workout, you test your limits in a safe way. But the whole process is really uncomfortable, First of all, there's a lot of barrier to even getting to the gym. Your couch is alluring, you'd rather stay home and eat chips. Once you get there, your heart races, you're sweating. It's just, there are many other more pleasant things that you could be doing. But every time you choose to push through the discomfort and pain, you grow. And this carries over into life outside of the gym. Because you've proven to yourself, as I said, in that safe way that you can persevere in the face of pain and discomfort and sweat, you can't help but stand a little bit taller. And if you can do hard things in the gym, where else can you test your limits? It's a hard question to answer that only you can, but this is a wonderful place to start. Takeaway number 3 brings things back into the science-based realm, that a sufficient protein intake is key for success. So if you're going to start adding resistance training into your schedule with the goal of building lean body mass, I would say to aim for between 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. This one is actually one that I underestimated for a really long time, to my own unfortunate detriment. And it's been my experience, clearly, that this number is not met by accident. So while I encourage myself and my clients to try to get as much of their protein from whole food sources, things like protein powder can be really helpful in meeting this daily requirement. For protein powders, my advice is to try a bunch of different kinds and brands until you find one that vibes with your body, that makes you feel good and light after consuming it, and then just stick with that one. So in practice, if you weigh around 70 kilograms, let's say, and generally consume 3 meals a day, let's just leave out snacks now for the sake of simplicity, that means that you'd be looking to get between 35 to 40 grams of protein per meal, which is a lot. That's why I say that it can be helpful to have supplements like protein powder in case you're either in a hurry or you just haven't had the time to construct a meal around a quality protein source. So I will link to a few resources about protein in the description box below, as well as a food chart of common whole food non-meat sources of protein, if that happens to be a dietary requirement that you're working around. One last quick note on protein. In addition to fueling your workouts and your muscles that you're trying so hard to build, protein contributes to a high level of satiety in your meals, or how satisfied you feel after you've finished eating. So by constructing each plate around a quality protein source, you're not only likely to feel more satisfied after the meal, but also, as such, you're going to limit the amount of cravings that you have throughout the day, potentially leading to better subsequent food choices. Lesson number 4 is that everything worth having in life is the result of compound interest. That hard work plus consistency plus time equals results. This is perhaps the most important lesson I've taken from the past 8 years, that if you show up, put in the work, and then trust the process, good things will happen. Now, I know that's a lot easier said than done because, as we said, the process involves things that are super uncomfortable, like challenging yourself, sweating, adapting habits that may cost you friends, or changing your entire lifestyle. But you owe it to yourself to become the happiest and healthiest version of you. And time will do its thing. So just make the choice to show up every day, do that day in and day out. And then when you look back, you're going to be 6 months or a year or 8 years down the line, and you're going to hardly recognize the place where you started. But you'll have become a much stronger, resilient, and more disciplined version of yourself. And one key factor here that I cannot overstate the importance of is the element of enjoyment. If you don't enjoy the journey, it's not going to be sustainable. And what's the point of doing something for a long time that you hate doing? No gracias. So one way that I've incorporated this over the last 8 years, it's been a learning process, is to experiment with a lot of different kinds of activities. So in the beginning, I was obsessed with weight training. Then I ventured into the world of yoga, and then into kettlebells, and then into outdoor workouts, home workouts, swimming. Anything where you're moving your body is good, and something that you enjoy, you're more likely to stick to. So find something that you enjoy that gets you out of bed in the morning, and then stick with that. Now, there will potentially come a time when that activity starts to bore you, or it doesn't have the same spark that it had in the beginning, and that is totally normal. Being consistent doesn't mean doing the same thing all the time. It means developing the habit of something that you enjoy, and then being able to discern when you need to adapt that habit to a different kind of activity, but keeping the same routine in place. I hope that makes sense. So if your routine is going to the gym every morning, then you can keep that habit of waking up early, but maybe sub out the activity. Go to a workout class instead, or have a walk with your dog or your friends. You don't need to drop the whole habit and throw the baby out with the bathwater just because that certain activity doesn't motivate you anymore. Try a different one and see if that renews your spark. Also, novelty and variety are 2 of the most handy tools that you can have in your little health toolbox as you continue on this journey. That as you start to get stronger and fitter and faster, you're going to need to mix up your exercises more often because your body will find plateau faster. There's a principle in the fitness space that applies very well here, called SAID, specific adaptations to imposed demands. Meaning that whatever activity you expose your body to, it's going to become very good and efficient at performing said activity. So let's say, as an example, you are a runner and you love running. First of all, chapeau to you. I don't know how you all do it. But second of all, the more consistently you run, let's say you develop a practice where you're running every day for 6 months. You're going to notice that at the end of the 6 months, that run that you do is much easier and potentially more enjoyable than when you first started 6 months ago. That's because your body has adapted and become more efficient at the exercise. On the one hand, that's great. You have developed a habit of something that I think is personally very difficult. So congratulations to you, keep it up. However, on the other hand, it means that your body is more efficient at the task. So you're going to burn fewer calories or get less out of the activity than you initially did. If you find that you're hitting a plateau in your activity or your sport, maybe your body has stopped responding or changing in the way that you want it to, or you're unable to improve your time or increase the amount of weight used, it's a wonderful opportunity to mix things up. Throw a different kind of activity in there. It could be kettlebell training, swimming, horseback riding, Zumba, whatever it is, just give your body a different kind of stimulus. Break out of that movement pattern that you've been practicing for a while. And then when you eventually go back to it, you'll notice that you're no longer in that plateau and you can continue to make results and progress towards your goals. And takeaway number 5 in today's video is that function is greater than aesthetic. I've had so much more fun in my training when I focused on building a skill, be it the push-up, pull-up, pistol squat, handstand, whatever it was, than when I focused on aesthetic. And this goes back also to the previous point, that it just feels really good to be strong and capable in your body. And I've been so blessed as a personal trainer to experience the same shift in my clients day in, day out. That's why I love what I do. That they say, wow, I didn't know that my body could do these things. I didn't know that I could feel so free, and just that my body is a vehicle to take me through all of life's wonderful experiences, rather than looking at movement as something that I dread or as being kind of foreign to their own body. That this shift from seeing things as an outward focus to an inward out focus is, in addition to number 1, is one of the best things that you can give your body and just yourself. One more thing I want to mention here is the idea of turning effort into the reward itself. That showing up and pushing yourself and just being in that discomfort can be the enjoyable part of the process. Because when you go through it enough times, you realize that it's that part, that kind of icky part in the beginning that you feel, that actually contributes to you growing into the kind of person that you want to be. There's a wonderful podcast by Dr. Ender Huberman, which I will link to down below, that he does a much better job at explaining. Changing your outlook on these things, as I said, outlook has a big part to play, and reframing your idea of the process and the discomfort, instead of being something that you dread, actually something that you embrace, because it's that thing that you initially feel resistance to, which serves you so much later on. And maybe that all sounds like crazy talk and you're thinking, Allie, no, I don't like sweating. I don't like showing up. And if that's where you are, that's totally fine. I completely understand, and just let it sound like crazy talk. But I do encourage you to give the podcast below a listen. He could do a better job at convincing you potentially than I. So applying this to you all, I want to present you with a challenge. In the next few days, I'd like you to identify one area of your life that you find your body is resisting, or that you see as really uncomfortable. And then you can write it down in a little notebook. You don't have to share it with anybody. And then try to see how you can take steps. It could be a little baby pinky toe step or a full-on hug to embrace this kind of resistance or discomfort. If you feel like sharing, of course, I would love to hear. You can either leave a comment down below or send me a private email. It would really make my day to hear how it's going. But of course, this is a very personal journey, so don't feel any pressure. It's nice to know that we are all in this together, working to become healthy and happier versions of ourselves, and versions of ourselves do things now that future versions of ourselves would be proud of. So I'm going to leave you all with that for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching and for making it all the way here to the end. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all back here in my next video super soon.